from the south coast of Newfoundland, a beautiful island off the east coast of Canada. In each episode, I'll be talking about my own designs, where I'll give you coupon codes, and I'll be talking about knitting and crochet patterns I am currently working on or have finished. So grab your crafty project and a drink, get comfy, and let's chat. Hello makers, and welcome to another episode of Marvellous Makes. This is episode 3, and I'm still coming to you from the south coast of Newfoundland, and you can find me on the internet as Nikkieknits everywhere, including Instagram and Ravelry. On Facebook, I don't have a sort of a handler like Nikkieknits there. I just go by my real name, but I don't really do a lot on there in the way of my podcasting and knitwear designs. Like, I'm on a few knitting groups, but who of us isn't, right? So at any rate, that's where you can find me. You can also find me by emailing me if you're not on Instagram or Ravelry. My patterns are on Ravelry and Etsy, and I'm also Nikkieknits Designs on Etsy. So those are sort of places you can find me. So why don't you tell me about yourself, where you're from, maybe when you started knitting, things like that. Drop something in the comments below, and just that way I kind of know who my audience is and I can connect with you better, and we can have more of a conversation than just a one-way conversation. At any rate, this is getting close to Valentine's Day in 2022, and I hope that this podcast finds you well, and I hope that I'm hoping to get this podcast up by Valentine's Day. So if you happen to be home and podcasting, watching a podcast, and you want a little company, I hope that I can keep you company today, whatever day this may be. I'm hoping by Valentine's Day. Otherwise, if you're watching this after Valentine's Day for any reason, I hope that you have some Valentine's Day treats for yourself and some knitting to keep you company. And I'll be here for the next maybe an hour or more because I tend to have a lot to say. So we shall see. So this is my third episode. Like I said, I had taken quite a bit of a break. I'll talk about that later on if you, I guess, are interested in more life stuff than knitting stuff, and I'll kind of talk about that later. In the meantime, got my duds on. So this is the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I think that's how you say her name. And so what I used for the sweater, which this is quite oversized, and I'm on her size range, it's really just one size, right? But on the circumference of the one size sweater, it doesn't give me a lot of ease like the sweater's kind of intended to be. And you could wear it more fitted, lots of people do, but I wanted a sweater with lots of ease. So I did choose to do the option where you can increase the chest circumference, just to give yourself more ease if you have a bigger chest circumference than what the sweater was really intended for. So I did that. Just gonna take a sip of my tea. My throat's kind of dry, and it's not really like I'm not sick or anything, but I don't know if it's just the winter. So yeah, I held fingering and mohair together. The fingering is let me think. This is an old stash. So this was, I think, purchased in 2018, I think. And it was 2 skeins of fingering, but I did buy an extra one with the intentions of doing this sweater or some type, maybe the love note, something like that. But it was yarn from Knit Crate. I don't know if any of you watch and get Knit Crate, but I used to get Knit Crate all the time, and I still do. But it's kind of, I do and I don't. So right now I'm actually doing the Malabrigo quarterly, so 4 times a year I get yarn from them. But I used to get their yarn every month, so I used to go with either their monthly like crate where you would get, it could be worsted, it could be chunky, it could be fingering, it could be whatever, but it's not sock yarn. Or I would get specifically their sock yarn crate, which would be a sock yarn of some sort. So sometimes that would have cashmere or merino or whatever. But anyways, I think this yarn has, I feel like this one had nylon in it as well, but I know it has merino and cashmere, I believe. And it was a fingering weight yarn, and the color was called Smackers. And it's very red, as you can see. And the mohair I actually bought from Knit&CrochetCafé November, but it came in December, I believe. And I bought, I want to say 4 balls, maybe it was 5, of the mohair by Knit&CrochetCafé. And it was the Kids Silk Mohair by Knit&CrochetCafé. And I'm trying to remember the color. I think it was cranberry. Pretty sure it was cranberry. Anyway, so I held a strand of each together and I knit the sweater. I did modify it a fair bit, so I didn't do the cast on that they asked for. I think I just did a long tail cast on, and I'm trying to remember if I did twisted rib. I think I did do twisted rib, but I also changed up the yoke a bit. I'm trying to find where I did that. Okay, so here, right between my fingers, this kind of round here, I just did my own thing. I just kind of wanted to add sort of more texture, because where the yoke was intended for a smaller size sweater, even though there was instructions to make the yoke bigger, it was basically just raglan creases after the circular yoke, which is fine, but it doesn't add anything. Like the yoke would have stopped about here, which I wanted to at least go that far, which I could have gone farther, but I just thought that was fine the way it was, just to have a texture kind of on this part of the yoke. But as you can see, there's a raglan kind of increase here, and that's there and on the back, and there and on the back. So yeah, so I did make this quite oversized actually, because I did want like a big loose, you know, not open gauge, because I did actually go down needle size from their recommendation, and I went down quite a bit for the sleeve, which I just did a twisted rib for the sleeve as well, the same as here, and I did a balloon sleeve. So once I got down to just before I did the ribbing, I decreased by knitting 2 together all the way around, and I did the same obviously on the other side. And I mean, you can't see it with me sitting here, but it's fairly long. Like it goes, I would say, just past my hips, but I did want it long, like to kind of cover my behind a bit, like if I'm wearing leggings or something like that. So I wanted something loose and comfortable and cozy to wear, but not too warm. Like this is such a loose gauge that it's airy, but it's also warm, if that makes any sense. So that's my ranunculus. That's what I'm wearing. So what I've finished, I have finished quite a few things, and I'm just going to show a couple of things now, and then next time I record I'll show a few more, because it's been a few months since I've recorded. So I'm just going to show some now, and I'll show some later, and so on and so forth, because otherwise this segment would take forever. So half and half triangles wrap. I'll put a picture on the screen to show it to you. I did put it up on Instagram, so if you follow me, you've seen it there as well. And I used Red Heart, oh, what is the name of it? I'll put it on the screen, because I have talked about it in a previous podcast. But anyways, I used that yarn, and I believe I used, I want to say 4 balls of this to make this wrap, I believe. Was it 4? I'm second guessing myself now. If I can work it out, I will put it on the screen. It might actually be my Ravelry. But anyway, so I made that one. Love it. It's like a big, lightweight blanket, basically. So I like to have a big shawl like this to wear, for example, if I'm going to the hospital with the baby. She oftentimes has a lot of appointments. And when I'm going into the hospital from the car, it can be a bit chilly, and I'm a bit cold for like 15 minutes. And then I'm warm. But she may need to take a nap. She may need a little cuddle. So I tend to keep it with me, because then I can just wrap her up in it and we can cuddle. She can go for a nap. It works great as a secondary blanket. So Sorry, I'm just looking down here because I have my show notes on my computer here, and I want to get through this before I lose all my light socks. So I have finished quite a few socks, but I will talk about just some of them, and then I'll go through more on the next episode. So this is my even heel sock, my own pattern, which is a free pattern. It's very basic. It's got a German short row heel, and I can't remember the colorway of this sparkly sock yarn. The red is Patton's Croy, so that's pretty simple, but I just wanted kind of a simple sock. I do have two. So that is one more FO, and I finished that in December. And this one here, I have finished real recently, actually. So it was finished just January. And this is the Saunter socks by Susie White. And I got this pattern in the Operation Sock Drawer book that the Knit More girls put together. So that was a pretty interesting knit. I found that I really got into the rhythm of it. You know, I probably got about that far in, and I kind of had it memorized by then. And I didn't need a cable needle because it was only twisting a couple of stitches. But I gotta say, it was really enjoyable. I would knit them again. And this is knit out of Knit&CrochetCafé Stroll fingering. And I'm not sure if the colorway is called Flamingo, but it's Flamingo Pink. And I have two. So that's more FOs. Oh, I do have my Shawlogerphy, which I don't have photos of. Didn't get around to it. But I will insert some photos here if I get a chance to get a photo of it before I lose some light. Otherwise, I will have it on the next podcast. But I did finish it, not on time. I wasn't well, and I'll talk about that later. But so I just ended up not doing much for a few weeks a month. But anyways, I've made up for it since, so here we are. So what I've cast on, some new things. I have cast on, let's see here. Oh, I've cast on socks for Josh. So these socks are just not really a pattern as such. I mean, I might write it up. It's just very basic. But basically it's essentially a 2x2 rib sock. And I started off using the red that came in the sock set, and I'll talk about the yarn in a second. And then this yarn here, which I will show you the front and the back. This is yarn from Fibre Co. Erin has been doing monthly sock yarns. Spilled my tea a little. Monthly sock yarn clubs, and it comes with, well, your choice of 1 or 2 minis. I chose 2, and it comes with a 100-gram ball of sock yarn. Josh has large feet, so I need a lot of sock yarn. I can't get a pair of socks that are just 100 grams. So I did go with the 2 minis, and I went with the 100-gram ball of sock yarn. So I'm hoping to get 2 lovely socks. This colorway is called the Empress, and this is a Star Trek reference. And all of her yarns this year in the sock club is all Star Trek themed. That I'll show you more yarn from Erin later in the sort of chit chat part, because I don't really have a segment for purchases, stash acquisition, if you will, but I'll talk about it there because I don't always buy yarn. Like I say, the Malibu quarterly is like quarterly, so, and I mean every now and again I'll buy yarn in the way of like from Knit Picks or something like that, which I do have Knit Picks stash, new Knit Pick stash since we talked. So I have started and more or less finished. I didn't put it in the finished segment because it's not quite finished, but I've started the Birch pullover by Pam Allen, and it's knit from the bottom up. I used Briggs & Little Heritage, and I did pink, white, and green, and I'll put a picture on the screen here of both the original picture and the picture of the one that I'm doing. I'm hoping the yoke will block out. Because I think it's just before the green section, they have you like decrease really rapidly, and it made it kind of, I don't know, cinch in a little bit, like ripply. Like, I don't know if you can tell here. Here it's a little bit ripply, but I kind of did that on purpose. Like, I did a lot of increases in that row just to kind of make it kind of be a little more flowy, if that makes any sense. But like, this was just like knit from the bottom up and just like cinched right in. So I don't know if that'll block it or not, but we will see. If not, I can just rip it out and re-knit it and decrease it differently, because in the next section I noticed they wanted you to do that again, and I was like, I didn't like how this looked. Now it might block out, but it might not. So I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. So I did, and it looks great unblocked. So if this doesn't block out, I may have to rip it out and redo it. So I've started the Stone Worrier sweater. In Norwegian it is Steinkirker, I think. I could be pronouncing that wrong. Sorry if I am. And so it's Norwegian pattern, but it's written in both English and Norwegian and I think French. And it's bulky weight yarn. It uses the main color and 3 contrast colors, although a lot of people have done it in just 2 colors. So I was going to do it in 2 colors, and I have yarn that's called Broken Stones. That's the colorway name. So it's just like a very white, creamy kind of color with like a bit of gray through it. It looks like Broken Stones. And I have this pumpkin spice colorway by Cascade Eco. So I thought that would make a nice 2-color sweater. But as I was knitting it, I wasn't convinced that I liked just the 2 colors. So this is just the 2 colors. I don't know if you can see that because I can't see what you can see, and the floats aren't too bad, but I'm not sure that I'm liking just the 2 colors. So tell me what you think in the comments. What do you think of this? Should I add another color or 2 more colors and do it exactly how they do it in the pattern, just my own color choices? Or should I leave it as is? I can't decide. But anyways, so this sweater is actually supposed to be knit from the bottom up and then joined in the round with sleeves, and then the color work yoke is worked to the neckline. I'm reverse engineering that because I wanted to do the color work first and then knit my sleeves and then knit the rest of the yarn to make a very long tunic kind of sweater. I'm also, I don't know if you can see here, right here, I put in some steek stitches. So I'm going to cut this open to make it like a long cardigan, and then I'm going to knit a button band and put buttons in it. The only work in progress I have on the needles that I had on the needles then is my jelly roll blanket by K. Jones. So this is a blanket pattern designed by K. Jones of the Bakery Bears. If you haven't seen their podcast, which, I mean, they're amazing podcasters. Like, her and her husband do this podcast together, and it's great. I enjoy it. So she released this pattern last year, and I decided to use all my variegated, basically scraps from various projects. Like, this is from socks from last year. This is from socks in 2019. This is socks from a design I did last year. This is from a cowl I did last year. This is also from that cowl I did last year. The orange is from a design I did last year. Sock design. Yeah, so this is actually the back of it. So I have a few ends to kind of weave in. I wove them in as I went, so I don't technically have to weave them in. But yeah. Oh, this color here I also used in my first ranunculus, which I held with some navy blue mohair from Lichen and Lace. This yarn here is from, I want to say Frolicking Feet, but I'm not sure if that's just the base. If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen, but it's old stash that I got from Knit Crate years ago. But it's not a Knit Crate yarn, because they used to do it where you could get indie dyed yarns through them, and then they changed it so that now you just get Knit Crate yarn, but you can get a Malabrigo Quarterly, and I think they have another club. I think it's like Miss Crosby or something. But anyways, so that is my blanket. This is some scraps that I have going right now at the moment. So yeah, I think all of these colors have been put in there already, I think. Yeah. But I'm knitting more things with variegated yarns, so as they are finished, I'll just add more balls of yarn in there, like this Empress yarn from Fibre Co. I'll probably have a little bit of this left over when I'm done Josh's socks, and then I'll put that into the blanket. As per, my tea has gone cold. My tea goes cold anytime I'm doing anything. Like, even if I'm just watching a podcast and knitting, like, I'll get like 45 minutes into a podcast, and they'll be like closing the podcast. Oh, like, you know, so I think that's it for today. And I'm like, I haven't taken a sip of my tea. Not one sip. So anyways, that's what I do. Oh, I don't know if I showed this before. I think I have. So this is my yarn bowl that I'm just keeping the socks I'm knitting for Josh in. And I made this yarn bowl in 2019, I think it was. Or maybe it was early 2020. It was before the pandemic hit Newfoundland. So yeah, so basically I went to Clay Cafe, which is a pottery place in St. John's, and I used what do they call it, stencils and stencil paint. It's like screen printing type thing. So anyways, I just did different llamas, and I did this llama blowing on this little flower here. I thought it was really fun, so I did that one. And I think I got it home, and I think a week later, I think a child knocked it off the coffee table and it broke. So I ended up gluing it together because I'm not eating out of it, so it's okay if it has super glue on it, right? I wasn't gonna throw it out. Like, I really like it, and I mean, you can, if you look closely, you can see cracks, but that's okay. Nobody will know. Okay, so what I have designed. So I've designed a hat, and I'll put a picture on the screen. Actually, I'll do a few pictures because I knit one for the baby, which I say baby, but she's 2. And I knit one for my 11-year-old, and I knit one for myself, that's 3. And I knit one for my honorary daughter that I didn't give birth to. Anyways, she's a lovely human being, and so I knit one for her. I won't show that one because she might be watching this. She asked me if I had a new episode up the other day, so I can't show hers. But yeah, so she's getting hers in the mail. But yeah, so I will put some pictures in here, and this one is knit in a worsted to Aran weight. You can get away with either. I wouldn't go DK, I feel like that's a little bit too light, but if you did like even DK and mohair, or like maybe a sport and a mohair, you could get away with it, and it'd be quite light and airy and warm. You could also go very rustic and use like a Briggs and Little if you want it to be more of like a rustic kind of feel. For this particular pattern, I worked with the Lion brand Landscapes, which is an acrylic yarn, and it's almost like an unspun, I want to say an unspun roving, but it's very soft, like very soft, very splitty. So you have to be careful knitting it that you don't, split your stitch or pull up a loop from another stitch or something like that. So you have to be a little bit careful with that yarn. I found after I got through the ribbing on my first hat, it was like, I just kind of got used to it and it was totally fine. I didn't have any issues. It just took a consistent, I just have to be very careful for the first inch of the ribbing. That's it. And then it was fine. I just whizzed through the next few hats. It is worked from the brim up, and there's cables depending on the size. There's more or less cables. There is one size that there is the same cables in that size as another size, but they're spaced differently just to create more of a size range that didn't jump too much. And there's alterations you can make in the pattern that I've outlined. So if you want a more slouchy hat, you can do that. If you want a folded brim, just fold it up. I did that with the babies because while the hat stretches quite a bit, it'll fit her head circumference probably even the next year, maybe two. But the length wouldn't fit her if I didn't make it longer. But if I make it longer now, it's going to be too long for her now. So what I did is I doubled the length of the ribbing, and that way I just fold it up now, and then next year, we could fold it down a little bit, and maybe the year after that we won't fold it down at all. It will just fit her. So if it doesn't fit her next year or the year after, depends on how much her head grows, I suppose. But it's fine. I can knit her another one. I'll probably have another hat design out by then anyways. But yeah, I think this hat will probably fit her for a couple of years. You don't have to put a pom-pom on it. The top of it is actually quite nice without a pom-pom. I just had a bunch of pom-poms I wanted to use in my stash that went really well with the hats, so I chose that. I knit the bluish greenish one for myself because I have a tealy, a dark teal Manitoba winter parka that has a fur trim, and it's a whole thing. It's quite nice and warm, but I wanted something to go with it for a hat, so I made this one for myself. I knit the entire hat without a cable needle. Some people might like to use a cable needle, especially depending on the yarn. If it's a slippery yarn, this yarn, probably a lot of people would use cable needle because it's slippery and splitty. But it seems to me that some people knit without a cable needle differently than I do. I'll have to do a video one day just to show you all how I do it. It might be easier for some people to do than others. I don't know. I don't know anyone else who does it like this, so I don't know. But that's sort of, see, what I do is I tend to find a way to do something. In my earlier days of knitting, I would be like, oh, what's this cabling without a cable needle business? And I'll Google that, and I'll find different ways to do it, and then I'll kind of mash things together and find my own way to do it. And even when I first started knitting, before YouTube was a big thing. Actually, I don't even know. Well, YouTube wasn't a big thing. It wasn't even a thing when I started knitting. But really, when I started getting into different techniques and stuff, I don't even know if YouTube was a thing, or maybe it just wasn't a big thing. Google was a thing. But I couldn't always find the things that I was wondering how to do. So I would figure out how to do things myself. I figured out how to do an afterthought heel myself, which in turn isn't how I've ever seen anyone else do an afterthought heel, but essentially it's an afterthought heel. So I don't know. Anyways, another tangent. So I've talked about the Wildflower and Wool and Jocelyn from the Northern Knits podcast 2 week sweater challenge. It's already begun, and I believe it runs till the 20th or 21st of this month. So if you're super quick, you could join in. I hope to finish that sweater. I'm kind of stuck on the color choices right now. So I don't know. I really feel like 3 colors will look nicer. So I might just rip back and do that. So that's something I got to figure out. Because I can't just sit on it. It's 2 week sweater challenge. I got stuff to do. So there's that. But my other sweater, which technically I could have knit through it the entire month, I've already finished. And I did start a crocheted one, but I think I'm just going to rip it out and either restart it another time or something. It was the Marley Bird Swancho. And like, while I crochet and I even design crochet patterns, it's like following crochet patterns can be so different from one pattern to another, because I find that like the blog versions versus the PDFs are quite different, and also from the designer to another designer is vastly different, I find, compared to knitting, which yes, there's lots of knitting designers that their designs, their patterns are written fairly different than others, but still the terminology is usually the same. The, I guess, there's standards, I guess, that are kind of more throughout, as where I find with crochet, like there's US and there's UK terminology, and then there's like the whole blog thing. A lot of crochet stuff is on blogs, and that format is very different than like a PDF you download for myself. Even my crochet patterns is very different than that. So I just find it a little bit, I don't know, it takes more concentration for me to, I guess, read a pattern. Or even like Marley's done videos and I'm like, crochet hook, yarn, and I'm like listening and looking and listening and looking and listening and looking, and like I'm waiting for her to tell me what to do, and I'm like this, and I'm just like, what do I do? Like, I'm just waiting for her to tell me what to do, and like, I don't know, I just feel like maybe it's just the way some people word things or whatever. But anyways, I'm more of a take the pattern, find a quiet corner, sit down with the materials, and just do it. That's kind of how I learn. So yeah, maybe I just need to print off her pattern or pull it up on one of my devices and just find a quiet corner. So the CAL that I'm running is the Even Heel Socks CAL, and that one ended technically January 1st. And so basically, if you finish a pair of socks, which I didn't leave it to just finish socks last year, because I started at the CAL and I knew it was close to the end of the year, and you know, people might be jumping in the last minute, so that's fine. But from here on in, if you finish a pair, and it doesn't matter when you started them, if you finish a pair of Even Heel Socks, which is my pattern, you can find that free on Ravelry, or for $1 on Etsy. Etsy doesn't allow me to do free patterns, so I'll have to put something there. But they also charge me money even if I don't sell anything. So I suppose it all evens out, right? But anyways, so basically, if you knit a pair of Even Heel Socks with a normal cuff, like, so we'll say 5 inches or more for a cuff, in fingering weight yarn, which is what the pattern calls for, and you finish them. When you finish them, hashtag it this hashtag, which I'll put on the screen, on Instagram, or you can go to the Marvellous Makes podcast group and you can enter it there. If something changes, I'll just write it on the screen, but I think that's the best way to do it. If for some reason you're not on Instagram, but you want to enter them, you can email me. My email's in the drop-down menu below. My email's also in all my patterns, and you can also contact me on Ravelry. Speaking of Ravelry, if you're not on Ravelry and you want one of my patterns, you can go to Etsy. If you don't see my pattern on Etsy, just email me again, email below, and let me know, and we will work it out. So, because I don't want anyone to feel excluded because for one reason or another they can't use Ravelry or they don't use Instagram or something like that. So just let me know and I'll be as accommodating as I can. So, along with this even heel socks MKAL, I'm drawing prizes every 3 months, so I'll put the dates on the screen. And then I'll just draw on those days. So it doesn't matter when you start them, it just matters when you finish them. So a picture of the 2 socks, 5-inch cuff or longer, even heel pattern. It can be self-striping, it could be variegated, it could be speckled, it could have a contrast heel, it doesn't have to have a contrast heel. If you can go on Ravelry, just pop on Ravelry, look at the photos, and people have done amazing things. Like the yarn combinations they've done, it's just beautiful. And these aren't necessarily testers. Like a lot of the photos on the Ravelry pattern page are pictures that people have posted based on like knitting my pattern, and I've asked them if I could use it on my project page because it was just stunning, some of the stuff they've done. So lots of great inspiration. It's like a blank canvas, so to speak. So there you go. What else? I think that's really it. Like I say, I'll add more things that I'm not talking about in the way of like segments in another podcast, just because it's so much to talk about. But I did want to show you something. Like I said, I don't get stashed very often, but I kind of will now because I've signed up for Erin's Stock Yarn Club. Okay, so January yarn, I believe is this one. I think she meant to, but didn't get around to posting the January color on Instagram. But I'm pretty sure this is the January color based on my conversations with her. Which, I'm trying to remember I'll put the colorway on the screen because it's slipping my mind now. But anyways, these are the 2 minis. And this is the actual full skein. I mean, the colors in this, I don't know if you can tell because we're losing a bit of light here, but absolutely gorgeous. And these minis are just amazing. So these are not going to be socks for Josh because something tells me he wouldn't enjoy this color combo as much as I would. So I'm going to do something with this. I'm not sure what yet. But the next month's sock yarn, which I really want to show you, but I think Erin might get mad because she hasn't released it yet. So if you've bought the 3 months in advance, you have it. But I was naughty and I couldn't not look. So I have it. But on my next podcast, I'll show you that one, so you'll have to wait. And I also got the Empress colorway, which you have seen. And it came with a black mini and a red mini. So those are my stash positions from Fireweed to Fibre Co. However, I did do a little bit of a nitpick splurge besides this red yarn. Okay, I have been naughty. brace yourself. Alright, so this is Knit&C's stroll. I'm gonna make so much out of this. I'm gonna make socks, and more socks, I think. Yeah, because what I've noticed is I'm missing solid colors in my sock drawer. I have lots of hand painted, like variegated yarns and things like that, but I want solid colors. So I got a bunch of solid colors. Let me just see if I can pull out some. So I've actually started socks out of this red, which is, oh, what is the colorway name? See, I can't remember now. I've ordered this in like November. But yeah, there's this really pretty, like, this is like a dark purple, like a dusty dark purple. And then there's this like light teal color. And there's this bright yellow. Oh, and there is, let's see here. Oh, this like Everglade color. And there's this mustardy gold color. Yeah, so all kinds of great colors there. Oh, this is a nice one. This is like a pumpkin kind of color, like a burnt pumpkin. Yeah. So I don't think now if there's any other colors that there's this blue. This is sort of like a medium turquoise, not turquoise, teal maybe. It's like a really pretty green. Yeah, and I got a purple here. This is a little brighter than the other purple. So yeah, I got lots of sock yarn. So I have lots of sock knitting to do. So I just have to decide 2 colors for my stone Worrier sweater or 4 colors. I don't know. But I'll put the original pattern picture on the screen now. And I'll put like a picture of my colorwork yoke up there. I did do some changes, which, yeah, so basically right here, it's like a 1x1 colorwork thing. And then right here is supposed to be as well. But I thought that looked kind of, I don't know. And I wasn't sure I liked it, so I thought I'd just try a solid line and see if I like it. And I kind of do, but I'm not sure if I like that either. So I think I'm going to be ripping back either way. But it's pretty quick. Kind of have a new yarn in my stash. Kind of. So there's this one, which looks significantly better than this one. But you might see where I'm going with this, because I have spun yarn. Can you believe it? I've spun yarn. So with this here, teal, this is a 2-ply that I've spun. It's a bit lumpy bumpy. And same thing with the yellow. And then I had some yellow and teal left over, and I thought, I'll spin some singles and then I'll ply them together to see what I get. So I ran out of the teal and started plying the yellow together. But like you can see where the teal and the yellow plied together. So I'm going to wind this into a hank, wash them and dry them, and see what I get. And I might just I don't know what I'll do. I might design something with it. I'm not sure what I'll do. It's my first spin that actually turned into a spin. I have the electric eel wheel nano. Couldn't make it heads or tails of it. I don't know. I could not seem to get the yarn or wool to wind onto the bobbin as the thing was spinning, and I tried various methods. It wasn't that the thing was spinning and the yarn wasn't like attached, Like I attached it, you know, and sometimes it would go on, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it would go on, and then the next time I sit down to spin, it wouldn't. So like, I don't know what's going on with it. And then I've troubleshooted it in every way I could imagine. I've Googled it all. I've done some things to kind of, you know, try different tensions and different, anyways, I've tried it all. Can't seem to make any sense of it. So, last November when I made my Knit Picks order, I ordered this. And I think this is a Kromsky. And I'm getting on just fine with it. I've run out of fiber, so that's a good sign, right? So, send Fibre. No. And there's nowhere around here to buy Fibre, actually. Like, in St. John's, 4 hours away, there's a place that sells, like, roving, which is what this is. And I had this to do thrums and mittens. And I was like, I'll just try it to see if it, you know, works or not. So, I made yarn with it, so that's good. So, I don't know if I'll get more of that, or if I'll, I might order from Erin, because she has Fibre as well. Erin from Fireweed Fibre Co. And she has like these, I guess, like, what would you call it? Like a mixture of different fibers in a bag. And it comes with like a, I think she said a mini bat. Anyways, so it has a bunch of different sampler bits, I suppose, in it. So I thought that might be fun to try and spin. So I'll have to get some more Fibre anyways, but I can't wait to wash this and dry it and see what this turns out like when I actually knit it up. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, that is all of my, I guess, knitting content that I'm going to add in here. I don't really know what else I could say about that, other than I'm very, very new at spinning, so I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't think. But I'm managing. It's coming together, kind of, sort of. Yeah, so if you have any tips, if you're a spinner, or you know a good YouTube channel for me to follow, Yarn Waffle Podcast, which she's in the UK, and she started off, I think, with a drop spindle like this. I don't know if it was this brand, but it started off with that. And then I think she got the electric eel wheel. And then she got, I'm not sure what she has now, but it's like a double treadle style spinning wheel. And she spins the most beautiful yarn. She's only been spinning a year. Like, mind blowing. And she's doing a new segment, or a new podcast called Spin to Knit. And oh my goodness, the stuff she creates. Like, amazing. You should just go check it out. She recently spun to knit mittens, like fingerless mittens that are color work. And oh my goodness, like, I can't even. The yarn this woman has created, beautiful. Just beautiful. Like, I don't know. You would never tell she's been spinning only a year. You would think she's been spinning since she was a year old. It's crazy. And her knitting is gorgeous. I mean, she's always been a fabulous knitter. So she designs as well. I think she's a mainly crochet designer. I think that's mainly what she does. But she also like works like, I'll say, a day job that's not knitting related, but or crochet related. But anyways, you have to check out Yarn Waffle Podcast. And I think it's Knit to Spin, or Spin to Knit. Sorry, Spin to Knit is her other podcast. Amazing stuff.